Okay, so there have been a lot of great paddles released in the past few months, and a lot of them that I've made dedicated videos for have been on the pricier side of things, usually $200-ish, if not more. Which begs the question, can you do better for less? The short answer is yes. Yes, you can. This is the Hudef Viva Pro Gen 3, an all-court paddle that leans power and I think is a great option for former tennis players with sound ground stroke mechanics. It comes in at $170 USD and you can save yourself some cash by using my code. It's essentially their Viva Pro Gen 2 but with a bit of a facelift utilizing a blue Kevlar / carbon fiber face and a nice white edge guard. Now, the Viva Pro Gen 2 kind of went under the radar a bit when it was released, and although I didn't do a dedicated review on the Viva Pro Gen 2, I thought that it was a very good paddle at its price and for the right type of play style. I have very similar thoughts on the Viva Pro Gen 3, which sort of begs a few other questions. Is it better than the regular Viva Pro Gen 2, which utilizes only carbon fiber in the face? Is Kevlar and Kevlar / carbon fiber blends better than carbon fiber in general, or is it just different? Stick around to the end of the video to hear my quick thoughts about that and some other paddle comparisons with similar faces, such as the Azul, the J2K, and the 11624 Huarache with Kevlar. Let's get into it. The Viva Pro Gen 3 definitely has power from the baseline. Ground strokes, full swing, swing volleys is where this paddle really shines, aided by a mid-120s swing weight of around 125. This is very similar to its predecessor, the Viva Pro Gen 2. Quite honestly, I couldn't feel that much of a difference in terms of power level between the two. I personally feel that the Gen 2 is a tad more powerful, but I asked a few friends of mine here at my local courts who actually play with the Gen 2 to see what they thought about the Gen 3, and all of them said they thought the Gen 3 hit a little harder or had a bit more pop. Now, I found this a little bit interesting since Kevlar is a softer, more absorbent material, so in theory it should play a little softer, and I actually think that it does. The reason as to why I think players say the Kevlar face hits harder is counterintuitively is because it's softer. You can swing the paddle a little faster and harder, so the result of your shot is that it stays in. By comparison, you may have to dial down your stroke a bit to keep balls in play with the carbon fiber only face from the Gen 2. At least that's just what I think anyways. I have no real scientific method or test to really back up this observation. It could honestly all just be in my head. Now, when it comes down to it though, they are both comparable in power. If you like to swing fully and swing hard, this thing will feel great and perform great. Some of you may have already shied away from the heavier swing weight of this paddle, but I don't think it's unmanageable. However, if you are coming from something like the Double Black Diamond or Movin 13S or Volair Forza Mach 2, you will feel a little bit slow and sluggish by comparison. If you can get over the higher swing weight, this paddle has great plow through, and the softer Kevlar hybrid face can help generate some serious spin. I personally find shaping the ball comes pretty easy with the Viva Pro 3. Now, it doesn't have the roughest feeling texture I've felt, but I think the softer Kevlar surface makes up for it. The ball seems to pocket more on this paddle, at least more than the Viva Pro 2, and this sort of pocketing feel helps me shape the ball better. Any shots, drops, or drop drive hybrids from the baseline and transition areas of the court feel really good and seamless. It's a high to top tier performer for spin for the most part, and the only place where I think I kind of wish I had just a tad bit more spin is on my speed ups off the bounce. For me, and possibly I think for some of you out there, the heavier swing weight can make it a bit more difficult to perform speed ups off the bounce effectively. This is where I believe the Viva Pro Gen 2 outperforms the Gen 3. Although the Viva Pro Gen 2 is essentially the same swing weight, the texture on the raw carbon fiber of the Gen 2 just makes it a bit easier to generate more spin with shorter, faster strokes. Of course, having a shorter paddle or one with a lower swing weight can also help in that department as well. If spin generation is of the utmost importance to you from all areas of the court, I would probably go with the Gen 2. However, if you don't mind giving up just a bit of spin potential for better feel, I think that the control and touch of the Viva Pro Gen 3 slightly outperforms the Viva Gen 2, although they don't feel that much different. I think the Kevlar/carbon face of the Viva Pro Gen 3 provides a very forgiving yet lively feel. When comparing it to other similar raw carbon fiber paddles that feel more crisp and firmer, the Kevlar on the Viva Pro Gen 3 is just soft enough to give you confidence in any shots that require a bit more finesse, whether that be a topspin drop in transition, a drop volley at the kitchen, or resetting your opponent's putaways. This paddle just feels softer than it actually plays. Dinks are pretty much a non-issue, and like I said before, the only thing you might have a very minor issue with is speeding up the ball from low bounces, which you probably shouldn't be doing anyways. So is it dope or no? This paddle is definitely dope, at least for me, when you consider the looks, price, and performance. It even comes with this nifty faux leather case. It's sort of right in my wheelhouse for paddles that I like and kind of caters to my playstyle, which is more of an all-court style that prefers driving and starting off aggressively. If you're a player that likes to push the tempo from the baseline or in the transition area, utilizing both spin and power, this paddle is pretty ideal. Definitely a good paddle for shake and bake plays and anything where you are looking to end the points quickly. In fact, I would say this is where the Viva Pro 3 excels at, back of the court up through the transition area. However, if you require a plan B and need to find your success by slowing things down in the kitchen, the Viva Pro Gen 3 sports more than enough touch and control for you to get your dink on. And like I said before, you may have a little bit of issues at the kitchen line when you find yourself in some hand battles, as it can feel sluggish and slow for, I guess, beginner to maybe some intermediate players. But if you're coming from tennis or coming from another racket sport, I think that the weight and like the power and the touch of this paddle is pretty ideal, especially if you have a tennis background. I also feel like the Gen 3 name is a bit of a misnomer. When I hear Gen 3, I'm thinking of paddles with some sort of foam technology being utilized. And yes, I know it's just the third iteration of the Viva Pro, but in my opinion, it's more of just an option select of the Viva Pro Gen 2, just with the Kevlar / carbon fiber face. I think they might have been better off just calling it the Viva Pro Gen 2A or Viva Pro Kevlar or something like that. They both play so similarly, I still have a tough time differentiating between the two. Now, with that being said, I do find myself gravitating towards the Kevlar version more than the carbon face found on the Gen 2. I don't know if it's because I like the feel all that much better or if it's just the looks of one over the other. And both of them look really good in my opinion. Speaking of opinion, since we are talking about carbon fiber versus Kevlar, now that I have been able to compare a lot more Kevlar face paddles, I think Kevlar in general plays just a bit softer and does have some benefits as a face material that can assist in control. There are some exceptions to that overall generalization that I just made. The first one that comes to mind is the Thrive Azul, which plays pretty poppy and definitely leans power in my opinion. But I don't think Kevlar is better performing as a material over its carbon fiber counterpart. It's mainly just preference, much like how some people prefer 14mm cores over 16mm cores. Some of you may be wondering how this paddle stacks up against some other Kevlar paddles out there, like the Thrive Azul, the Ruby, maybe the Honolulu J2K, and to be quite honest, I don't know if that's the right comparison since those paddles are all a different shape. But if you want my quick thoughts on the Viva Pro Gen 3 against those that I just mentioned, I would say that it is less powerful and poppy than the Thrive Azul, but has a much softer feel to it, more similar to the J2K and the Ruby. It's definitely more powerful than the J2K and Ruby, but that's probably due to its elongated shape, so it has a bit more leverage, so you can really drive the ball a lot better. I think the closest comparison is probably with the 11624 Huarache X Control with Kevlar. I'm not even sure if that's actually the right name for that paddle. Gosh, their names are so bad. But yeah, that one is similar. It's an elongated shape, uses a blue Kevlar carbon fiber hybrid face, but it has a bit of a longer usable handle and a rounded off head. The Huarache Kevlar sacrifices some power and pop for hand speed, so choosing one over the other really comes down to your play style. Anyways, that's the Hudef Viva Pro Gen 3. It's a solid paddle. Links and codes are in the description below. Till next time, play better. Peace.